So now you've seen pivot tables in action, you want to see how to create them. Well, with 2013 came the arrival of recommended pivot tables. This is where Excel will take the data that you are looking at and suggest possible pivot tables. If we take the employees file, for example, we simply need to click anywhere into the data. We don't have to highlight it all or anything clever like that. Go to the Insert ribbon and choose Recommended Pivot Tables. And what Excel will do is it will highlight the data behind, and you can see the little marching ants, so it's picked the data up and then suggest a number of different pivot tables. The first that it suggests is that it's going to count the IDs for each of the marital statuses. And it even shows you what the result will be for that pivot table. There'll be 43 married, 9 divorced, 47 single, and then 1 blank entry. Or perhaps we would like to sum the salaries by marital status. And again, it shows you what the pivot table will look like. Sum of sex by marital status, count of ID, and sum of salary. So it tells you how many people and their total salary by their title. So Lord, Miss, Mr, Mrs, Ms, Sir, and there's even one test that earns nothing. Sum of salary and count of ID, and sum of sex, which is just missing on the right. So it adds 3 columns in for you. Sum of salary by county. So you've got a grand total of the salary bill broken down by county, or grand total of the salary bill broken down by department, which could be quite useful. Sum of sex by department. This one doesn't quite work because the sum of sex is adding up 1 for the males and 2 for the females. So we're getting a result of 137 when there's actually only 100 people. Sum of sex by county, again, it's adding up the sum of sex, which is not a value that can be added up. And the same for the last one, sum of sex. So those sum of sex options are not an option to choose, but possibly this one here, sum of salary by county. Once you find the pivot table you quite like, assuming you want to go with a recommended one, then we simply click OK. If you're not happy to go with any of their recommendations and you want to go the manual route, then you would choose blank pivot table. And we'll look at how to create a pivot table from scratch shortly. So I'm happy with this one. I click OK. And it places that pivot table into a new sheet. So it doesn't affect the employees at all. It inserts a new sheet with whatever the next name is. So in my case, that's sheet 1. And it inserts the pivot table just as we've seen it in the recommendations. We could do exactly the same thing with our Sales Inc. 2013 file. So this is a list of sales for 2013, various dates, different quantities, different items sold. So again, we go to Insert, Recommended Pivot Tables, and it's making a few suggestions. Total price broken down by month, sum of the current price by month, sum of total quantity, count of the town, so there's a few columns in there, sum of current quantity by month, so that's total items sold for each month, so that could be quite useful. Count of town and sum of quantity, not so useful. Sum of month by month, so that's adding up the month values, not very useful. That's why December is quite large, because it's adding up 12 for each value. Sum of total price by total quantity, current price by current quantity. Some of those just don't make any logical sense whatsoever. The one that we're going to plumb for here is sum of current quantity by month name. So that's grouping by each month and counting the quantities within each month. So you can see, like most traditional retail sales, very heavily weighted to the back end of the year towards Christmas. 180 items in November, 150 in December. Again, as previously, if you're not happy with any of the recommendations, we simply go down the blank pivot table route, which we're exploring shortly. If you like one of them, it's okay. If you think I'm not having any of those, thank you, then it's cancel. But I quite like this one, so we'll go OK. And just as previously, it inserts a new sheet. It never sticks the pivot table in the same sheet as the data, because we don't want to overwrite any of the data or get confused with any of the data. It's pulled into its own sheet, and then you can see the pivot table and its data. So that's the recommended route. New option, just to get you off and running with a quick pivot table.